Hi, beautiful people. I am professionally diagnosed with PTSD, and today I'm going to be answering the question of whether or not I wish I had responded to my trauma in a different way. So, I think it's a very common response after you go through trauma to look at the people who hurt you, look at the people who abused you, and say they can wake up every day not feeling bad about what they did. They can go to sleep at night, sleeping perfectly fine despite what they did to me. I wish I had responded differently, or to see other people, meet other people who've been through trauma and see that they had a different trauma response than you and be like, wow, like that sounds better than what I go through. I wish that I could have responded to the trauma in that way instead of the way that I responded to it. And what I think is very important to keep in mind whenever people think this way is that things are not always as they seem. I think a lot of people look at people such as people who are narcissists or who are sociopaths, have antisocial personality disorder, like my older brother is professionally diagnosed with, and they think, hey, like that must be nice to not have empathy, to not feel remorse, to be able to do all this stuff and not feel bad about it. But I think they're missing the fact that these are disorders for a reason, and that although externally it might seem like these people are not suffering, they actually are suffering inside. They actually do have a lot of pain, and they do have a lot of problems in their life. It's not all sunshine and roses like it might look like it is. And I don't say this to make excuses for abusive people. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm saying this to say that although it might look like they're living such a better life than you, that's not always the case. You can't always see the pain behind what people are doing. Most abusive people do not wake up in the morning deciding, hey, I'm going to be abusive to somebody else. They do it as a response to a mental illness that they have, the pain and suffering that they're feeling. And yes, like people do not need to use their trauma to excuse their behavior, but at the same time, these people are doing it because they were miserable. They're not doing it because they're happy. So it might seem like they get to live these perfect lives being completely unaffected while you have to suffer, but those people are suffering too, and it doesn't excuse their actions, but it also doesn't mean to be envious of them. At the end of the day, if you went through childhood abuse, you were a child when you decided how to respond to it. A child is just doing whatever they need to do to stay alive, and you didn't have a choice in it because you were a child and you were put in a situation that no child should have to go through, and you had to do whatever you needed to do to survive. And so a child cannot be blamed for how they chose to survive. As an adult, there are choices that we can make, and it might not be our fault that we have a certain disorder or that we responded a certain way, but it is our responsibility to deal with it anyways. It is our responsibility to make sure not to hurt people despite that. And so, yeah, we do need to keep that in mind of abusers, that it is their choice now that they're adults to do things to not hurt people. Which brings me to my next point. Yes, when I look at, for example, certain people in my family and I see that they don't feel bad for what they did to me, it can be easy to say, wow, I wish I could be that way. I wish that whenever something didn't fit my worldview or something made me feel uncomfortable or sad, I could just delude myself into thinking, going into denial and thinking that it's not so, and to just always look at myself as this great person who didn't do anything wrong. It's always the other person's fault and I'm always the victim. Sometimes that does sound nice, but then I think about it and I'm like, would I want to give up empathy? Would I want to give up true love and true connection to do that? And when I actually think about these people's lives, are they actually as happy as I think that they are? Or am I actually the one that's in the better position because I'm actually trying to heal, I'm actually trying to get better? I might not be perfect, but at least I don't hurt the people that I love the way that they do. And everybody's going to hurt somebody they love at some point in their life, but when I do hurt somebody, I apologize, I take accountability, I don't project blame onto them, I don't try to say, oh, but my intentions, or oh, this excuse or that excuse. I take responsibility for my behavior, and that allows me to have connections with people. Even if I do struggle with it, that allows me to be able to experience true love and stuff like that. And so would I really want to replace these things that I have just to be able to sleep better at night?